Greetings, my noble knights, it is I, Blaze Templar, and as you might be able to notice at the moment, I'm actually going to go ahead and just have this play in the background, kind of as, you know, just an image. Why? Because I actually want to talk about Detective Pikachu, the movie. And as you can kind of notice, probably right about now, I don't have any footage of that. I don't want to get copyright claimed or whatever. I really don't, which is unfortunate. And I will probably go into the actual game in a little bit. But so, I watched Detective Pikachu on the 10th with a friend of mine, and I went in kind of worried about the CGI, to be completely honest. The CGI kind of horrified me, if I'm going to be blunt about it. And I wish I could have done this right after I'd gotten back, but yeah, things just didn't work out in my favor, so, you know. 3 days later, here we are. Awkward. So, a few of the things have kind of slipped my mind, but I actually quite enjoyed the movie. Do I think it was a perfect movie? Of course not. You don't really get perfect movies, just like you don't get perfect video games. But there were some really cool elements to it. The story actually kind of tugged on the heartstrings a little bit more than I was expecting. I wasn't expecting any sort of tugging at all. But yeah, they actually had this really, you know, touching bit where the main character is trying to find his father. So I guess that's kind of a spoiler alert. But if you played the game or know anything about the game, I guess that doesn't carry over too much. And outside of that little mention, I'm going to try to leave this very spoiler alert friendly. I mean, that's shown in the trailers too, so I'm gotta give myself the leeway there. Anyway, that being said, the CGI, a lot of Pokemon actually looked way better than the ones they showed on the show, like this trailer. The 3 Pokemon I really did not like. There were 3 Pokemon that looked disgusting. And those were Lickitung, which shows up for like 45 seconds and is actually part of a pretty decent gag. Charizard, and Mr. Mime. Those are the 3 Pokemon that were really, really ugly. And my problem with them is not the fact that they tried to go realistic, because a realistic look can technically work, but it's very hard to pull off. And in these cases, it didn't quite work out. Like Lickitung kind of looked like its skin was kind of Play-Doh rubbery, and that kind of carried over to Mr. Mime as well, although it was more his face itself that was kind of bad. However, that being said, Mr. Mime as a character was actually pretty amazing. So, I didn't mind him as much as I thought I was going to. Like, at first, the CGI made me just want to hate him, but the things that happened with Mr. Mime are funny enough that I didn't even care at the end. Which was really weird, to say the least. Now, the last Pokemon that I had a lot of issues with was Charizard. They tried to make it like a realistic kind of like lizard scaly kind of look, and it kind of managed to pull it off, but not quite. It did feel a little Play-Doh rubbery, so it wasn't a complete success for Charizard, but he was probably the least offensive of the 3. Lickitung was probably the worst, but again, he wasn't there very long. So it wasn't too bad, I guess, in that regard. On the flip side, though, there were some absolutely amazing-looking Pokemon. I think my favorite was Golurk. That thing just looked so cool, and it was when they started going into like the more fantastical elements or focusing on bird-type Pokemon that it really kind of struck at home, you know? That was when they did their best work, I think. So, really quite nice stuff there. The story, it's Detective Pikachu, so you would expect it to be very, you know, kind of detective work, mystery-esque kind of thing. Honestly, it was a little weird. There was very little actually detecting kind of thing, which was a little disappointing, to say the least. That wasn't to say that there wasn't any at all, but the detective work was done more like, oh, by the way, this is how it actually works, so do it this way. A lot of the story for the mystery part was told instead of shown. And I didn't like that fact. I did not like that fact at all. But that being said, most of the story was told very well in a very shown way instead of a told way. So I can't complain too much, but the detective work that you were really kind of expecting with a movie called Detective Pikachu just was not there. So that was the big downside of the movie. A lot of the mystery is revealed through holograms and that kind of thing. Although they do manage to make a very compelling arc and story if you're willing to believe what psychic powers and stuff can do, being a little bit different than what are shown in the game. But then again, the games don't really delve very deeply into psychic power. They just kind of use them for Pokemon attacks. So as long as you're willing to believe that psychic powers have some pretty unique effects, you can get away with a lot in that story, and it works pretty well. Let's see. The cast. Ryan Reynolds just completely stole the show. I'm just going to be blunt right now. If there was no Ryan Reynolds, it would not have been nearly as funny or enjoyable or as interesting. So he really did kind of prop it to a new height, which definitely helped. He definitely was a big deal for the cast, and I'm glad they chose him. Definitely better than Danny DeVito. I know people wanted Danny DeVito, but he just, with the kind of character they were building, he just wouldn't have been right for the fit. I can see why they decided to go with Ryan Reynolds instead, and he pulls off the part so well. His partner, Human, is pretty interesting, I guess. He's more like the relief to Ryan Reynolds' Pikachu, so he does the job all right. He's solid enough, but he's definitely more the support to Ryan Reynolds. The other main character, she's all right, enjoyable enough, but yeah, the show really was stolen by Pikachu. So, what do I think about this movie in the end? Honestly, I'd have to give it a 7, a very, very high 7 out of 10, or an 8 out of 10. Just in that area. As a video game movie, it is probably the best video game movie I have ever seen. So, yeah, if you want a really good video game movie, and want that higher standard, yeah, this movie actually had a high enough standard to be a good movie on its own, not just a good video game movie. It is a good movie. If you don't like the CGI animation of some of the Pokemon, I can fully respect that. I originally didn't want to watch it at all because the CGI looked so horrible on certain Pokemon, but I decided I'm just going to grit my teeth and bear it. But I was honestly surprised, and I was able to overlook a lot of the jank for the more positive elements. When they got the Pokemon right, oh, it just looked so good. Again, Golurk in particular, I loved looking at Golurk. He's not on screen very long. He's only there for 3 seconds, but he stood out so strongly. And the flying Pokemon, they look like flying Pokemon, exactly what you'd like. So that's nice. Now, there is one element I haven't covered quite yet, which a lot of people are probably going, wait, this is kind of the key thing about the movie and the jokes. Now, actually, the jokes, most of them come out really well, and they're pretty funny. The first one actually involves a Cubone, and it is absolutely hilarious. I mean, it does also do a little bit of character building, even if it is very forced at that point, but, the joke with Cubone is absolutely amazing. After if you see it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But at first, it's a very cringy moment, and it's intentionally made to be kind of a cringy moment, just to kind of showcase what the individual you're interacting with is. So, it's actually a really good movie, and I enjoyed it. So, yeah, how did I ramble for 10 minutes without stopping? I guess I had a lot to say about the movie, and I could keep going on and on. But yeah, like, the plot actually worked pretty well. The jokes were solid. There were a couple that were definitely risque, to say the least. So if you're a parent, you're going to be a little bit questionable about some of those from a Pokemon movie, but overall, those moments pass so quickly that if you're able to, it's usually something kids won't notice at all. So it works out all right. The jokes don't get too dirty either, for the most part. There are a couple I was that's a little questionable about, but it was a good movie. And it didn't rely on the dirty jokes. It just relied on actual good jokes for the most part. So yeah, like I said, a very high 7 or maybe even an 8 out of 10 movie. I am very glad I went and saw it. I don't think I'm going to go watch it again in theaters, besides the fact that that's kind of expensive. But yeah, I'm glad I saw it. It's one of those movies that I would have regretted not going to. But yeah, that's kind of what I got to say about that, and I'm kind of rambling now. So I'm going to end the video here. But we do have more content on the way, more Pokemon content, more everything. The CML, which is a Pokemon League, will start on the 19th week, so sometime that week you'll see the Draft League videos go up for that, outside of the announcement of what our teams are, so that's going to be kind of nice. We're going to try to get back to streaming. I haven't been sleeping quite right, so it's been kind of hard to do that, especially when I wake up at like 2 in the morning like I did today, but there you go. Well, that's all I got for you now, but I will see you in the next video, and goodbye.